Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Herding Cats. CATS is the computer automated traffic system that runs on JMRI. I'm Jerry Britton, your host, and tonight we have with us Rodney Black, the author of CATS, who's going to go through changes in the new version that coincide with the recent release of the new version of JMRI. So with that, Rodney, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, first thing is, Jerry, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Good to go.
Okay. And I may not be watching the chat. So yes, Jerry, if you want to watch for people raising their hand and the chat and stuff like that. And if a question comes up that looks like it needs to be answered, just interrupt me.
Yep, will do.
Okay, so with that out of the way. So this is going to be test release. We're going to call it 299. That's kind of the way that JMRI does things. And here are going to be the highlights. Let's see, suppose you guys probably want me to try to see if I can turn the magnifier on. Let's see, where is it? That helps a little bit. Okay, so the highlights are it's compatible with both JMRI 4.24 all the way up to 5.0 to the best of my knowledge it is. So that means if you haven't done the upgrade to 5.0 yet, you'll still be able to use this on older versions of JMRI. It should be compatible with Java 8 and Java 11. I've been running Java 11 for, I don't know, a few days now, and I haven't seen any problems. You should know that there will be bugs here. So the important thing is you'll use it at your own risk. Until we get some more soak time on it and people actually using it and turning up the bugs, this should be considered a test release. And if you've got a weekend coming up of an operating sessions and stuff like that, I think you should go back to the version that's currently on the website. Stay with that. So use at your own risk. You might have to modify a panel for your panel file for best presentation. So there's a new version of Designer coming out as well. And that means be sure you back up your panel file before you begin. And bugs will be tracked on the bug sheet. Where do you find those? If you go to the CATS website down here, there's a link you can click on, and that's where I've got the latest bugs and changes and stuff like that. Okay, here are the bugs that have been fixed in CATS. Okay, I fixed the bug in CATS 2.43 that's in the train labels. There was a typo inside the CATS code where background was mislabeled as back with a B in there. And I put out some instructions about how you could fix it in your XML file. Well, the typo's been corrected. So if you did fix it, you'll need to change the background with the B in it back to without the B. And you can do that with just a straight text editor, a global find and replace. Okay, let's talk about designer changes. First thing is device readback. There's been some discussion since about the first year about how sometimes you start up CATS and the occupied blocks don't show up and things like that. And so what I did was I put some changes in it, and it looks like what happens is that the problem appears when JMRI initializes devices before CATS creates its copies, because what happens is JMRI sets the state of things like sensors and turnouts, and then when CATS comes along, JMRI doesn't bother to tell it that what the states are. So the fix was to go in and actually read the JMRI devices. I'll show that here in a few minutes. I put on on the drop-down menu, there'll be something called a initial refresh. If you check that, then when CATS comes up and the panel is loaded, then it will go out and read all the devices. It's not mandatory. It's a checkbox. And the reason I made it not mandatory is because couple reasons. One, in my static testing here on a simulation, things didn't work right if I did the initial refresh. If I read all the sensors, because and basically what it amounts to is on a simulation, sensors and turnouts come back as in an unknown state. And the way CATS does things is it understands active and inactive, but it doesn't understand unknown. So sometimes it'll take the wrong path. And furthermore, there is a bug, and this happens only on a live system, and it locks up like maybe 50% of the time during initialization. And the only resolution way I found it is to kill cats, like you gotta go through the task manager. The problem is trying to catch this. I'm sure it's some type of a timing issue somewhere, and I don't have ready access to the railroad that I've been doing the testing on. It's like a half-hour drive, and and the owner has to be around and things like that. I have to be able to get the debug tools in place. With that,
Rodney,
yeah.
Rodney, are you saying that only happens during initialization?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's part of the head.
Rodney,
Whoops. Okay, what happened? Hang on. There is mute.
I'm hearing you now.
You hear me now? Okay. So yeah, it's the same code. If you do an appearance refresh display, that now works, and that all works. And so it's the same code that is executed during the initial refresh. So it may have something to do with JMRI building the tables while CATS is trying to access them. This could be a little bit tricky to try to figure out. Okay, let's see if I can demonstrate this. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up CATS. And I'm good. That's the profile I'm going to use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in so this is what JMRI is doing while CATS is loading up. I'm going to load in some tables. And in particular, I'm going to load in, look at some sensors. Okay, and what I'm going to do is turn on where's my yard siding? So I'm just going to fake out some occupancy. So you basically what it amounts to, you've got some locomotives out on the layout. Your occupancy detectors are fired. JMRI comes up and it finds it. Now I'm going to load in the CATS panel, and that's right here. Okay, notice no blocks are occupied. So if I do appearance, refresh screen, become occupied. So that shows you that, I think, is the problem mechanism, and there's that's kind of like the solution for it. If you get problems with the initial refresh checked, then uncheck it, and as soon as your panel loads, then do the appearance refresh screen. And
Awesome.
I can turn them off. Okay, next. Let's see what's next. Okay, we've got improved usernames. What that means is that the when in Designer, yeah. Okay, in Designer before, when you define like a decoder address, the box looks something like this. That's the kind of decoder that was being asked for, and this is a pull down which had like LTLS, things like that. You put the address here, optional username, you had to do a throw or a close. Okay, here's what the new one looks like. Very similar, except there's a thing here called JMRI device. with the new box, you need either the pull down of the device type LS, LT, the address, and the throw or close, or you can use a username and a JMRI device. And device would be like a sensor, turnout, and something like that. And if you do this, what happens then when JMRI loads, it'll go strictly by the username and it won't look for a system name. It'll expect JMRI to have the system name. So that means you have to define these kinds of devices in JMRI in a panel and load them before CATS loads. So this gives more independence from JMRI. We got buttons. I've added buttons, and buttons can respond to layout events. They can trigger layout events, can be momentary, and you can be image size or grid. Let me show you that. Okay, unfortunately, and there's a bug in here, and I don't know where it is exactly. I've got my test panel works just fine, but this one doesn't. So I've got something set up wrong. Anyway, I got 3 buttons down here. And if I bring up my turnouts way at the bottom, I've got a status. And if the status changes, notice that the button changes. That's useful for something like if you got a slide fence or a tunnel curtain or a defect detector, something like that. And so you just tie it in, and whenever it flips, then something happens on the panel. And what I'd like to show, but again, like I say, it's not working, is that I've got 2 here. And when you click on this one, then it should change state. It should change from green to red or whatever. It's got 2 pictures, and it alternates between the pictures. And it would also change the table down here. Then this one, it's got a timer on it. See, part of the problem, one issue when with working with JMRI with sensors and turnouts is that after you go into the active state, you've got to go to the inactive state before you can go back to active. And you need a reset of some form. Difference would be like a toss switch where you flip it one way or the other, and a push button switch where you push it in and release it. This would be the equivalent of a push button, push it in and release it. And the way you set these up, the other thing to note is the sizes of these. These are small, and these are the size. I took these from JMRI. You can use any picture you want. But I took these out of some of the JMRI icons, and these are the size in the JMRI file. And I said, make it the size of the grid. And so it blew them up a little bit. So go back to here. So here is the button trigger. Again, we've got the new improved decoder definition box. And if you want status only, in other words, it's read only, so that mouse clicks don't do anything. You check the status only box. If you want it to fit the size of the grid square, you check this box. And if you want to make it like a push button, you put in a delay here in the number of seconds. And then here's where you specify the primary image and the alternate image. And again, these then will affect sensors or turnouts or whatever you want. So I know Seth has asked for how do I do a maintenance call light, and this is how you would do it. Pick the images that he wants on the panel, and here would be the address of the LED on his layout. Okay, signal disciplines. You've seen the top 4 before. They've been around a while, and I've added a new one called undefined because one of the primary motivators for this version of CATS is that I didn't like the way it handled end of track. If there's another signal after one, then that wasn't handled very well at all. So you can put signals, of course, on CTC, DTC, all 4 of these. And I had to have a way to say, I've got track here, but it's unsignaled. So perhaps that's why I should call it. But anyway, there's a new discipline called undefined. And the distinctions you're going to see between these is that a dispatcher, when you click on the signal to set a route, it'll stop at ABS and undefined. It won't go any farther. So if you do a yard, for example, and you have a signal going into the yard, then make the yard undefined or ABS so that the route won't go into it. Another thing then is that dispatcher routes cannot be created on an ABS or an APB signal icon. And that's somewhat, if you think about it, it's prototypical, because if typically an APB and ABS weren't under CTC territory, they really didn't have signals on a dispatcher panel anywhere. Okay, I've added something called speed coloring, and you'll see why this is important here in a little while. And this is, again, in Designer, you go down to appearances, and if you check speed coloring, the track will look something like this. And what this does is it'll show you what speed each of these blocks is. If it's white, I think it's the normal speed, and if it's green or purple, and you can select what color they are from the appearance colors. But it shows you where, again, the speed of the blocks. That's useful if you want to compute try to figure out which grid in the template is being invoked when you've got a route going through something or a signal going through something. And then you uncheck that to go back to the normal Designer display where it shows you the tracks in red that have problems. This is going to be really handy for you guys who have already built your panels. Not so much new people, I think, will find it very useful. Under devices, there's some more things down here. You can look at the block table, which is all the blocks, and they're in a tabular form. So you got the block name, the station name, the discipline, the decoder information, and so forth. And you can go in here now and edit the stuff. So you don't have to mouse over to a particular location on the screen, click, then mouse through the track ends, set block, and all that kind of stuff. And you do a whole bunch of them here. So the thing to do, the bottom line that's important with this is put in your usernames. Block names you have to have, but things like username on your detectors is very important, because that's about that's one way you can identify which row corresponds to what on your display. There is a bug. Sometimes the table does not update, but the entry was captured. So in other words, you made the change, you did the accept, you come back and it looks like you didn't make it. It didn't take. Well, at that point, try to get out of Designer and come back in and see if it did. And again, it's very random. I don't know. Yeah.
Got a question from Inspector Dave.
Sure.
Hold on. I had muted everybody, and I don't think he's able to talk.
They're temporarily muted now.
There you go.
I know on the older version, I couldn't put a duplicate name in. Let's just use a name of Ramsey. I got a large section of my layout that's multiple blocks, but it's all Ramsey. I couldn't put the same name in, Ramsey, for all the usernames and all the blocks.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to, because each block is unique. And so it needs a unique username. You still can't do that.
Okay. The reason why I was doing that was because I wanted the blocks to be able to tell operations that the train was in Ramsey, but I found out later on, obviously, that the station name can be the same for all the blocks.
Yes,
that's correct.
In fact, I think if I remember right, operations uses the station name as the communication mechanism and not the username or the block name. So that's what you want to do.
Okay, that's right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the last one down here, all devices tends to be a very useful tool. If you bring it up, what it does is it packs all those tables together. And specifically, it focuses on the decoders themselves. So it tells you, Designer collects all of the decoder definitions and lists them here. So it tells how it's used. Here's your user ID, and then the prefix and the address and what type of device it is, throw close, username, and all that kind of stuff. And these are sortable. Actually, why don't I show you? Okay. Let me bring one up and then I can do the magnify screen again if that works. Parents, I want devices. Okay, let me bring that up, see if I can bring the magnifier. Okay, it didn't work that time. If I can remember where it's at, I think it's under settings, system, something. Is it appearance? Ease of access. There we go. Where is that? Text, make everything bigger. I know it's here somewhere.
It's on the list on the left, Rodney. See, it
List
says
on the left.
magnifier. Look under vision and then about the fifth one down.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, let's turn it on. Okay. There it is. Okay. Come on. Just kind of slow. Okay, so I can do something like what's really useful then is to sort it by address. Okay. And if CAT sees that, for example, IS-10 had been used multiple times outside of a block, it would flag it in red. So in other words, if you've got if you accidentally put in the wrong address in several places, it'll say, hey, you probably have you probably misused your address and there may be a mistake. So kind of point out where the problems are. And you can see like IS-1's been used in blocks and IT1 has been used in routes in several places. So if it's used in, like say, if the prefix and the address is used in multiple places, then it tries to point it out to you. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint then. Let's zoom out. Okay, I'm going to keep this guy around, but reduce him. And let's get rid of that. And go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so that's a nice little tool that helps in debugging. And like I say, it beats trying to move the mouse around, click and click and click and so forth. Things will go a lot faster. So if you're just designing a new layout, you can put it all in and just put in the leave off the decoder information. Then you can come back to the tables and as long as you've got the blocks named and the signals named and stuff like that, then fill this in later. Okay, something big here. And this again is back to what's stimulated a lot of this work. In the version of CATS that has been out there, the signal the progression was wrong. Wherever there was end of track meaning that there was no signal after this last one. CATS, I didn't know what I was doing, and I put an approach in there. So consequently, you get a clear before the approach. Now, I've done a lot of work on getting end of track working right. So if there's no signal after this one, CATS will try to give you a restricting, which can be like a flashing red. And I understand Other railroads do it differently, but you get restricting, then approach, and then a clear. And so that may be the most disruptive thing that I think you guys will find. And let's go on with that. Okay. In the old way of doing things, okay, restricting was just one single thing down here. And what I've done is I've made it a column so that it's over here so that you can have a speed. That'll give you like, you can get a red over a flashing red if you're doing route signaling going into an unbonded siding, for example. And again, you can set the stuff up over here. And so what used to be halt, cats would go to this column when it found a signal protect track. Now it goes to this column. And the easiest way if you have not been using flashing reds on your layout, then and you will go back to the old way, then the easiest thing to do is just put yellows in here and get rid of the flashing reds. Okay, and notice there's another checkbox down here called hold only. And this is in response to the request to allow LCC to do the vital logic. And the way it works then is that cats will hold a signal when there's no route through it, and they'll release the hold when there is a route through it. And we'll look at that here in a few minutes. Let's see. Okay. In fact, let's look at, we'll go through more on the table. I've now also allow definable indication names. You know, where before it was like there's C-core and stuff like that on the label names. Now notice you can now put label names on the indications. So here's speed signaling, what it might look like. And then on this side would be route signaling, what it might look like. So that seems like a little nicety, but it becomes kind of important here, because CATS now uses JMRI signal masks underneath it all. So if you get hardware that requires signal indications rather than uses like turnouts or whatever, or signal heads, you can now use that kind of hardware with CATS. And the way it works is this. In your signal definition, you got the name over here, like it's 10L. You have to create the signal mask in JMRI, and you give it a username. And so the connection is the name here must match the username in the JMRI signal mask table. That's the first piece. Second piece is this. Okay, in the template in Designer, I defined a template called BN 1889. And I filled in, used the definable labels now, put those in. And in JMRI, there's a signal system called let's see if I can bring this up so you guys can see it. Okay, there. So in JMRI, I've got, this is standard JMRI distribution. If you go to JMRI XML signals BN 1989, you'll see there's a bunch of stuff. These are the various aspects. And if you open this file up, aspects.xml, you will see something, there we go, that looks like this. With advanced, the name will be, it's got a clear, a name clear, a name advanced approach, a name of approach diverging, and so forth. And these names, advanced approach, clear, and so forth, must go in here. So that's the linkage between the two. You have to set up a template and you pull the names out of the JMRI signal system table and put them in here. And let me go back out one moment.
And Rodney did load this PowerPoint to the group's website earlier today, so there is a copy in there.
So important. So if you, it's hard to see, but clear corresponds to that entry. Approach diverging. I've got advanced approach here. No, I'm sorry, is down approach diverging and so forth. So the idea is these correspond to these, and all of these you have to have a label in here that refers to something over in the out of the signal table. So that cats. So what happens then is under the covers is cat says, okay, I want to make this signal clear. So it looks in the template for this box and it says, okay, the name, the label on that box is clear, and it tells JMRI send a clear indication to that signal. So that's the linkages between them. Okay, plus there are more colors, more fonts, more adjustments, all kinds of good stuff like that. I'm not going to go into those. Some of them we'll touch on here in a few minutes. So CATS changes. First one is it's got a simulated code line. And you signaling geeks know that probably the original code lines were half duplex, meaning that the machine sent a code, and while it was doing that, the field couldn't send a code. Well, I've made it full duplex. You can separate the transmit and receive timers. That's what I mean by it's simulated. I've implemented vital logic into CATS, and when you do something in the GUI, then a command to the vital logic gets queued up, and it'll go through just basically a delay of a certain amount of time before it hits the vital logic, and it'll give you less of a video game feel. Let me give you an illustration. Okay, here we've got, let's see if I can bring it back up. Okay, what I'm going to do is under appearance, adjustments, we've got code line delay, and currently it's set for 0 seconds. If you want it the way it always has been, you set a 0 second delay. I'm going to put in a 4 second delay just so you can see the effects. Okay, then I'm going to set a route. Notice the blinks, and boom. And then there's a delay in there between action and response. So that's the simulates the effect of a code line. It'll slow down some of those guys who just figured out how to push the buttons real fast and everything. Okay, and I'm going to turn it off because what you'll find is that sometimes this can get things can get really, really slow if a lot of things are happening.
Question?
Yeah.
Inspector Dave.
Yeah, quick question, Rodney. You're seeing a delay on your screen, but is it matched to the delay out in the field?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So you push the button and it's going to sit. The command then is delayed a while. Then it hits the simulated vital logic, and the vital logic will actually send the command out to your layout. And then if there's a response coming back from the vital logic, then and you've done the receive code line, then you'll get another delay when it comes back up. So for example, when I do this, oops, wrong place. Didn't hit the signal right. Okay. Now that one cleared because I must not have had the response came back, or I'm not sure. That shouldn't have cleared that fast. But oh, I think I may have removed the code line. Yeah, that's 0. That's 0. So yeah, I removed the delay, so I turned off the code line. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint for a minute. So that's actually no, I think I know what's going to come next. Okay, so that's one thing. The next thing is you can run time. And the way that works is, let's see if I'm ready to run time. I've got an adjustment. Time lock is currently set for 6. Okay, so the way running time works, first of all, I'll just show you without. We set it. Okay, running time means that if a signal is knocked down while a train is approaching the signal, then the signal will go red, but you can't move the locks. The idea is if a train runs through the red signal because, dropped in front of him, he's not going to derail because none of the turnouts can move, will have been moved. So what we will do then is we need to I'm going to occupy the block. So we've got a train there. We're going to set the signal. Now I'm going to say, oops, I want to throw that turnout. Notice it's gone red. It's not going to let me throw the turnout until time is run. As soon as the signal goes back to white, then I can throw the turnout. And I need to go back to here. Let's see. I need to do my turnouts. Actually, it's a center. I have to provide the feedback. Okay, that is siding left. There, okay. So that's running time. And I know of some people have implemented on machines and they say the dispatchers hate it because it slows them down way too much. So if you turn it off, you go back to adjustments, time lock, and we set back to 0, and then you're not running time anymore. Okay, next is what's called call on, or sometimes return to train. The way that works is like this. Let's say I've got a train here, and I've left my train here and I've gone on and I've been switching over here, and my locomotive, and I've come back and I'm sitting here. My locomotive and the cars I picked up off the siding are here. Now I want to go back to return to my train. I can't set the signal because the signal protects this block and this block, and this one's occupied. So it's not going to let me set it.
Hey, Rodney,
Yeah.
with the magnifier on, your cursor doesn't match up with the diagram. So if you could describe what you're talking about, please.
The cursor, oh, really?
Yeah, your cursor's over under the yard, and you're talking about the siding.
Yeah, I'm talking about this. Okay, so yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay. Can you guys see the siding?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a red line on the siding, and then there's a red line on the approach to the siding.
Correct.
So at the siding where the station is, that's the rest of my train, and on the stuff in front of the siding, on the approach to it, that's where the locomotive is. I want to return to the train. And there's a signal, double-headed signal there, and it won't let me set that signal to let the train return, the engine return to the train. So what you have to do is you have to do something like flag the engine, past the signal, saying, dispatchers say, okay, engine number 4, you have permission to pass signals showing stop indication, all switches are lined and locked for your movement. You can flag them past, or you do a right click on the signal and you do a set call on. And now, if I can look at the signal masts, there should be this top one is restricted normal. So it's showing a flashing red. And then when the train occupies the block, and then he clears this one up, and then he clears this one up, then it's gone, that's taken away the call on. Now, when using the the signal hold and stuff like that I talked about a few minutes ago, that doesn't work too good with control points because the vital logic doesn't know, or the LCC doesn't know that I've now put the signal into restricting. And we can let's see if we actually okay, I'll show you. Let's look at one other here in a minute. I'm going to occupy that. And now if you go over to the Y, you'll see on the left-hand side, there's the triad around a control point. And what I've done on the lower one, facing towards the left, I have done two things to it. I have, and it is called, if I can remember, it's, if you look down on the chart, there's one called Y left B. That's the signal, and I defined it in JMRI, like I showed you earlier, as a BN 1989 signal. It's currently showing stop. And what I want to do, and notice if I swing if you follow that line across under the column called held, it's check marked because Katz has said that signal is held at stop. Now I'm going to go up here and I'm going to set the left-hand move. You see the green arrow. Notice the hold, it's no longer at hold. And furthermore, if I make it a clear, the icon turned green as well. So the icon is reflecting what, for example, LCC is doing with the signal. And if I take it back, now Katz has control of the color of the icon and the held checkbox is back. And I was playing with this a little bit today and it's not working quite as well as I would like. Sometimes the icon doesn't get the proper colors. Okay, so let me jump back to my PowerPoint and just see what else, if I've covered everything there. Okay, we talked about simulated code line. We talked about running time. We talked about return to train. And the conditions for that is the immediate block behind the signal has to be unoccupied and the next one has to be occupied. And the default is flashing red. And again, you can play with the templates and change the actual aspects on the signal, whatever you want. I may have talked about this before, but I've got a turnout unlocked icon. I don't remember if that's been in there before or not. So let me show you. Okay, if you look at Spur, there's a little check mark right there. And what that is, I think that's under turnouts. Scroll to the bottom. Okay, there it is. If I change that, in other words, this is tied to the hardware on the fascia that unlocks the turnout. Notice now that the check mark has gone away. So what the check mark does is it says that the guy out in the field has unlocked the turnout. It gives a little bit of a visual indication there. And we can show you where that is at. Okay, this is designer. Here's Spur. And you see the box come up. And if I look at details, track ends, and I gotta go back up here. I define the switch points. It's these guys. If one of these is set, then you'll get the check mark when the field has unlocked the turnout. And if they haven't unlocked it, then you don't see the check mark. And I think that's actually backwards. I think the way the panels actually worked is the check mark indicates that the dispatcher has locked the turnout, and when he unlocks it, then it goes off. But that's not very consistent what we've done in the past. Okay, those are check marks. Those are the check boxes. Now we'll go to the really fun stuff. I've implemented, it probably isn't the right way of saying it, the right definition for it, but I call it NX. NX stands for entry exit, and it gives you the ability to basically set up, call them an extended route. So let's say I want to go from the yard over here, and I want to go up into the siding at the Y. Do a right click on the signal, set NX route, accept. Notice that it's this blinking gray. Now I can pick any signal over here I want. Let's say I want to go to exit, would be typically what exit means is that's the exit signal. So see what happened? It set the route all the way from here to here. And it was, the way it's implemented is that CATS went through and it clicked on that signal, it clicked on that signal, it clicked on that signal, it threw the turnout, and when it after it's thrown, then it clicked on that signal. So easy way of going from setting up a long route. And you can go, I could also go, okay, so I can knock them down like this individually if I wanted to. I'll show you another way in a minute. When I was designing this, I said, okay, where should my second signal, can it be in the same direction of travel or can it be opposite? And the definition of entry exit is that it should be opposite. But somehow, logically, if I think about it, say I want to go from this signal to that signal, so I can also do it, set NX, and I'll go to this one. Oops. Yeah. So this shows you another thing. If you click anywhere, if you don't click on a second signal, it's going to say I couldn't find one. And suppose I said, oh, I want to cancel out my operation. I can hit cancel. And that's how I get out of the two-step process. I abort the second step. So we'll try, whoops. See if I get the signal. Set NX route, accept, and I want that signal. Okay, so in other words, my second click could be on this signal or this signal, and it has the same effect. If it's against the flow of the route of traffic, then CATS looks for the next signal in the direction of traffic. And if it's on the direction of traffic, then it goes up to just that signal. Here's another way to cancel it. Click again. And I can cancel the NX route. Now, because of the way it works, I could also set NX route. And I'll do this one again. And I could go in here at any signal that's green. Notice I can cancel NX route. If I do that, it cancels the route from that signal to the end. Or I can just knock this one out. And the route is going to be the same, except it doesn't go through this block. So now I could do something like that. Oops, here we go again. I got to remember that. I have to manually provide the feedback. Oh, come on. That didn't get, oops, wrong one. I need left side. That's a sensor. Okay. So, but if I put this in like that, so in other words, if I cancel it manually, it doesn't put it back into the NX route, if that makes any sense. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is that the way CATS works is that it clicks on that signal, this signal, this signal, this signal, and it remembers it clicked on all of them. And as long as the signal is in a route then you will see the, well, okay, this one, even though it's green, it's not in a route, so that's disabled because I'd taken it out of the route by clicking on it. This one, for example, I've got the cancel route because it's still in it. Okay, that's how we take those back. And at the same token, then, if you do fleeting, do a right click. Come on. And if I do fleeting here, then what happens is if the signal is in a route, an extended route, then you get fleeting on all the signals that are in the route. And if it's not in a route, like this one is, then it'll be fleeting just for this signal. Okay, let me kill off the, I want to do a solid route.
Does anyone not understand fleeting? I know that feature's been there before, but I don't know if everybody's familiar with it. All right, looks like we're good to go.
Okay. Now, extended routing is also reasonably smart. So for example, let's say I've got a block here that's occupied like that. And notice the way the turnouts are set is that they're set for the main line. And I want to do NX. And we'll just go down to this one. Oops. Oops. Okay. Looks like I got a bug there. But it would route it around the, I'll have to look for it. It would try to route it around this, this obstruction. In addition, see if I can get rid of this. Now I'm gonna have to remember what I did to see if I can locate where the bug is. The other thing it will do, you can bias the way the NX works, because currently, and the algorithm is that it looks at all possible paths from, say, this signal to this signal, and it picks the one that has the fewest turnouts to throw. And that can lead you into two ways to get to this signal. For example, I can get to this signal using, what we've got here, or if you look, I can get to it this way. So I'm going to take that turnout back. I'm going to take this one. Okay. And let's see if, and I want to go up to this signal. Okay, I've got, let me try a reset. Something, I've messed something up. It's probably when I took the, when I took that one out of the extended route. Nope, okay. I'm gonna have to remember how to do that because there's a bug in there. Something's got stuck. I'm gonna restart this. And I need to reload my panel. Okay, so let's try it again. So if I want to bias it such that I go, well, let's see if this will work now. We're going to occupy a block here. And I'm going to throw that turnout like that. And I'm now going to set my extended route. That's one of the things after I get this stuff smoothed out, I'm going to make these easier to hit these signal heads consistently. And I want to go to here. Okay, so notice the route that required the fewest throwing of turnouts was this way. And notice that CATS is waiting for these turnouts to come back saying, I've now moved into the right position. So I need my tools, tables, sensors, and let's see. I think it's these guys. And let me do that one. There you see it goes. And I'll do the right hand side. And there it goes. So notice what the extended route did. He routed around the obstacle. He took the path of least throwing of turnouts and came around to it this way. Next, let's do. Let's say that I've got, I'm going to run a train this way. Then I want to run one from, say, I don't want to use that signal. I'll use this signal. I want to run one from this signal up into the siding up here. So at this point, I'm going to stack the route. And again, we get the blinking. Same type of process. And I want to see, if I want to see what's stacked, click on any signal and look at change stacked routes. And it says I've got a route from Y, right A to siding left C stacked up and ready to go. And at this point, if I had several, I could reorder them, the order of them, or I could take it and I could delete it and cancel it and get rid of the route. And so I'm going to do it the easy way. And I'm going to cancel the NX route. Notice that the signal flashed. And now as soon as there was a clear path, it took it. And you can stack them pretty much as deep as you want. The way route stacking works is that it's basically, it stacks up NXs. So when as the tracks in a possible route clear up, then it tells the stack, hey, check it out, check it out. And when the route stacking mechanism sees that there's a clear path, it will then just basically do an NX from the entry point to the exit point, and which basically says it goes back and throws turnouts and clicks on the signals. So the execution of the stack is going to depend upon the route that it takes will depend upon the conditions and on the track at the time that something frees up. Okay, let's see. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, anything else we got? Oh yeah, last thing is the when there's the stack, it's think of a stack as like a tray of plates in a buffet line. When the until the plate on the top of the stack is removed, all the others are blocked. They're pending, even though they may be able to run depending upon the current conditions on the layout. The top one's got to be removed first before they can run. Okay, that's pretty much what I've got. Questions?
I'd like to chime in and thank you for your efforts. You got a lot of great stuff in here. I know there's some features we've been talking about over the past year that I and others have been waiting on. So I really appreciate that. So with that, are there any questions?
Steve Davis, just real quick, this is great, first of all. So as you said, I'm going to echo Rodney, fantastic work. The call on is great. The running time is phenomenal. Stacking is better than what we implemented on the KCS third sub. A couple of, one question, because there's a lot you could ask about, but the one thing that concerned me, once the bugs all get worked out, and I know they will, because your software has always worked phenomenally well. It seems like there's a lot of work that, like, if I try to convert my layout to this version right now, I have to change a lot of tables or something. Is there going to be maybe later kind of an explanation on how to do that? Because that felt a little intimidating as far as, my signal templates may not be germane. I'm not going to LCC, so I don't know if that applies to me. Help us understand the convert. Maybe I'm not asking right. The porting. How hard is it to take a working CATS installation and go to this version? That's my question.
It's some of it's going to depend upon if you used flashing reds before.
Yes.
You did, then it'll probably be no effort. And if you didn't use flashing reds, then that's where the devices signal tables comes in handy. Okay.
Okay.
Because then you can go in and you can edit the stuff in the signal table, and so that you don't have to mouse around on the designer stuff. You can change it directly in here.
That's fine.
You may have no problem.
I don't know. We'll find out. The second question, I don't mean to monopolize. This will be my last, I promise. You talked about the stacks executing in order, regardless of if there was another stack that could be fulfilled. So that's a little bit different than what I expected, because if you got two different meets on two different parts of the layout, you may not want to wait till the first meet works before the second one. But it sounds like if you made short stack routes, could it still work? Or does it look at the thing as like there's the concept of a stack and it only applies, it's modal to the layout. There's only one stack at a time for the whole layout, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
A couple of things I want to mention. Okay. First of all, where you could have trouble is in order to be able to see the what's in the stack. If you remember right, what it looked like was I don't have an example easy. What it looked like was the entry signal, exit signal.
Mm-hmm.
If you have named all of your signals in the that and they show up in the template,
Yes.
then you should be okay. That's got to happen for you to be able to, because it uses the signal names to tell you who's entry and exit. Okay. Now, to your second question, then, you're absolutely right. You probably don't want to set up a stack or an extended route over the whole layout. I mean, you can do it.
Now, I'm sorry, I wasn't suggesting that. I guess I'm not saying it right. Looking at your diagram, you've got this, if you could take the template down for a minute, or the signals, so I can look at the actual layout. So you've got, right there. Let's just say you had a train that you wanted to meet at the control point you're calling yard. Yep. And then there was another movement that you wanted to have a meet at the Y.
Yep.
I guess what, you might want to take a train and have it take the siding and have let's just say it's going to the right from the left. So you got a train on the very left of the whole screen. He's moving to the right, and he's going to stop at that stop sign at the right, or the signal at the right of the yard. Doesn't matter which one. And then there's another guy coming to the left, and he's going to take the siding. And what you'd want to have happen, of course, is as soon as one or the other one cleared up, then it would release, throw the turnout, line the signal.
I think what he's trying to say is you've got two independent stacks that do not conflict with each other.
Right.
Can they work at the same time?
No.
Okay.
Okay. if I understand the situation, what you're saying is you've got basically two isolated, non-overlapping sections of track. And if, when the stacks were created, the stacks can only be created if there's an obstruction in the stack. But the left end of the layout has a route stacked, and the right end has, and they don't overlap. But the left end is lower in the stack, so it's going to be held until the one on the right goes through. And even though they're non-overlapping, they could. I have not done the analysis to check to see if there's overlap or not. And that's
Okay, I
why I
understand.
put in the single stack. I played with a bunch of scenarios in my head, and
So does it matter which train gets there first? I guess let's just stick with the concept there's only one at a time, but let's say you were going to have two trains meet in the middle at siding, and one is going to the left and one is going to the right. So you've lined the one that's going to the right into the siding. You've lined the one that's going to the left onto the main, where you're showing an occupancy, but assume there isn't. So that's how you've lined it manually when you've set up your NX routes or just use signals,
Right.
However you want to do it. Now, if the guy going to the right into the siding gets there first, will it release so the guy on the main can go, or does it have to happen in the order? Like, I guess because you can't predict what train's going to get there first. I think that's my concern.
Right. Okay. So what happened? Okay. The answer to your question is then, if you, as the dispatcher, seeing it, you can go in and reorder the stack. You see?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but I mean, the way I do it on the KCS is like they used to do it at, I don't know if they don't still use the same software, but like on the old, the system you're trying to model, what's it, Digicon? And you can only stack one signal at a time, but if the guy, I mean, you could have multiple stacks, but you can only make it be over one signal. You didn't get, this is a great luxury that you can go over multiple pieces of track. Don't get me wrong. So let's just say again, the train moving to the left, you've set it up so you think the guy who's going to the right from spur to siding is going to get to the siding first. You've already lined him into the siding. You've set that route. That's a given. Now you got a guy coming from the right, so let's just say from Y into the siding. I mean, into the main track, sorry, but at the control point that's called siding. Now, I would want to ideally stack the exit out of siding to the right and stack the exit out of the main to the left. So just not knowing who's going to get there first, it's going to let the guy, once it's cleared, the other train that has a free path that will be able to go. Hope I'm saying it right.
Let's just try something then. Okay, let's set, we'll do an NX.
Yeah.
From here to there.
That's what I had in mind. Yeah.
And then we'll do a meet. Whoops, I'm sorry. Let's do an NX from there to there, like that. And then I need to throw that turnout.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you had the censored thing. So,
yeah.
Hey, if I'm monopolizing everybody else's time, I'm willing to stop this.
Okay. This is good, Steve.
Okay.
So we got that. Now we want to do a stack. So what I want to do is set this guy.
Yes.
And we will stack his route
To anywhere. Let's
basically
say,
just
yeah,
gonna
to
reverse
Y,
it.
I guess. Sure.
I didn't catch it. There it is. And then we're going to stack this one.
This is exactly what I was asking about. Thank you for understanding. I explained this so poorly.
We go. Let's go over to here.
He's
Okay,
doing
so
he's doing it with 4 stacks instead of 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So now let me get the sensors. Okay, let's start moving some trains. So we've got, this is, I can remember what my oops, that's not it. I gotta remember what I named these things. I think it's this. There, we got that one. And then we've got the intermediate detection. And
Nice.
we're just gonna move the trains. Okay, now I'm gonna stop it there. And
Okay.
you tell me the order you want things to go.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but let's just get the other train to approach to the left from the right, the same way you just did.
Sure, sure. Okay, that would be, what do I call that? Y left.
You know, why deciding, I suppose.
There we go. And then I think that's the intermediate. And so he's moving along. Okay, so now they're both approaching. Which one do you want to go into the,
Now, I won't know if I'm testing the theory because I don't remember which one you stacked first. So,
okay, we'll look and see.
okay.
So what I stacked was the siding right to the Y left.
Okay. That was the
So,
first one from right.
Okay, so it's going from the left to right.
Got
It's the
it.
one that's going to go first. So let's
Okay.
put the
Let's get the other train moved
This-
into the siding on the main first then, so that we're not doing
Okay.
it in that same order.
okay. So let's see. I think I've got spur detection. I need my intermediate. And then I need my left. And then I need my siding main. See, he can't, whoops.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. See, he can't go anyway because there's somebody against him.
Okay, well, see, I thought he could go into the siding. I thought that's how we stacked them because we would decide where he goes. We're not asking the panel to decide which route. So I assumed it would now clear once the turnout through. It would try and clear that route from that signal towards the left.
No,
Okay,
because of the stack. Now, if you
Got it.
wanted to do that, if you see this is happening, this guy's a lot slower than you
uh-huh.
think, then you would go in and do a chain stacked route,
I see.
and you would take this one and you could
Okay.
move them up.
That's one way to do it. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
And there you go.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow.
So, and again, this is the first cut at it. The algorithm, I spent several years thinking about how to get this stuff to work right, and also looking how the prototype did it. And the problem, if you I started out with, like you did, Steve, I started out putting a stack on each signal. And I found that you get interactions between the stacks. If you think about NX, and you can actually get yourself into what technically is called a deadly embrace situation,
Oh,
where one stack is waiting on another stack, and they get locked up.
yeah,
That's why-
I wasn't suggesting you would allow, you can do it. I've seen it done, but I wasn't going as advanced as thinking you might allow two different, stacks. And if you did that, it would have to be in an order, just like the prototype
Yeah.
does. But what I really meant was we would assume that the dispatcher was telling the train to go straight through on the main, and you set that as a route, and the other guy was telling him, the dispatcher telling the other train to go through the siding, and it would just, because you're only doing it on a per signal basis, as soon as one of the signals cleared, the other one would throw. And that is how it works on my railroad, but what you've added is some stuff I didn't have, like NX routes and stuff. What I'm thinking of is let's say you got a long railroad that has a lot of passing sidings, and I can stack the meets on several of those and then deal with somebody who needs tracking time, and those guys will throw. But it's a great start. I'm not being critical. It's phenomenal. I didn't know if you were even going to make an attempt at stacking. So my hat is off to you and my thanks. And we will, I'm sure I can play around with changing the order and stuff, but this is wonderful. I'll let somebody else ask a few questions, but I'm thrilled that you've brought so much to the table, and I'm just excited about when it's a little more stable and ready sort of for prime time, because there's a lot of really good features. I like the buttons too, by the way, so that there's things you can do. Like I said, the indicators can show you if there's a short in a block. Someone brought that up. It's very important to know, because depending on the kind of detection you use. It might show a false occupancy. Now you'll know why, because the block was shorted. Or if it's shorted and it shows no occupancy, but there are trains there, you'll know that it's shorted. So, and there's other things you could do, like have a button that line a path or do other things like that. So I think it's great. So thank you. I just want to thank you for your effort on this.
That's great. Hey, and then I got a quick question here. Those of us on Windows 10 are no doubt being encouraged to go to Windows 11 automatically. I know. Have you tested this, Rodney, on 11?
None of my machines will take 11.
Okay. Question.
I've got an expense in my future.
Question from Rob Ball.
Hey, Rodney, thanks for everything you do for us with this. This is awesome. I want to tell you, my biggest question was compatibility with LCC, and I'm glad you brought that up. And what I'm wondering is, I'm doing my single mass, the Vital Logic, and the track circuits through the CDI. Does CATS read the Vital Logic that I put into the CDI? And also, do I have to create signal masks that will work in JMRI, not just off the CDI?
CATS doesn't know anything about LCC. CATS knows only about JMRI.
Okay. So
consequently, you will need to do JMRI signal masks.
Okay. That's why that was a big question I had, because what we're trying to do is run APB with the nodes when we don't have the computer, or we're not logged in the computer, and we wanted to run under CATS for CTC. So I need to do both then, is what you're telling me. And maybe Ken Cameron can chime in on this. He's posts on the LCC group quite often. And because I'm just wondering that I have to do all the signal logic for APB on the node and the CDI, and then separately do everything setting up signal mass and JMRI so CATS can identify it.
Yes. And then,
okay.
then you would use the thing I talked about earlier. You would need to define your signal masks in JMRI. And then when you just define them in CATS, you would connect the usernames to her. And you would in the templates, you could click on the hold, and then that'll let LCC set the aspects and CATS will release the hold whenever the user has set up a route.
Okay. One other question, and it's concerning stacked routes. Our layout, we have a normal route going into a medium speed track under designer, and a limited speed turnout going into a limited speed track. Does the algorithm know to use the fastest track speed, or would it still line normal into the slower program speed?
It will use the route that gives you the fewest number of moving turnouts. So it
there's only one turnout.
There's only one turnout.
Okay, so it's all turnout based on. Okay, thank you so much, Rodney.
All right, Max Humphrey chimed in and said Windows 11 does work. So thank you, Max.
Yeah.
And now we're going to Seth Newman in Mountain View, California.
Oh, and lovely Mountain View. Thanks. So I got to say, I love the running time and the enhancements to turnout locks, and this is really nice, Rodney. Just a question about another one of my long-standing favorites. Going back to Bruce Faulkner, there's been some desire to have a track permit window pop up when you grant authority to more closely simulate track and time. I assume, since you didn't cover it, nothing happened there.
Nothing's happened. In fact, I got thinking about it today. I was wondering if you're going to ask me about that again.
Believe me, you're giving us some good stuff that's probably even more useful. Not a problem.
All right, out to Inspector Dave again.
Rodney, when we're using two different computers, one for like a staging computer for controlling all the trains going out of a large staging area, and the other one is for the layout. Is it advisable that both computers have different configuration profile names?
It doesn't matter because they don't talk to each other.
Okay, here's what happened, and just as a background, he was working on the staging panel on his computer that has his CTC on for the layout, and then we found out this last weekend that his staging panel brought over all of the turnouts and sensors from the CTC panel was all in the staging panel. And then he had lockups on the staging panel, and the lockups on the CTC panel all stopped when he shut off the staging panel. And I'm wondering if all the stuff that got polluted from one configuration profile going into the other one, if that had an effect on the lock.
Okay, first of all, we've talked about email back and forth on this. You guys are using LocalNet Digitrax, and JMRI with LocalNet. As soon as you turn your computer on in JMRI goes out and it sends some messages out on the LocalNet, and all the devices out there come back and they say, I've got LT1 and I've got LT400 and so forth. So that's where the pollution is coming from, is the fact that your staging computer, when you fired up the JMRI on it went out to the LocalNet and said, tell me who's there. And so if you look real close at for example, the sensor table on the CTC computer and the sensor table on the staging computer, you'll see that all the LSs are the same, but you'll see one has, if you use usernames, you'll see one has usernames and the other one doesn't. Okay. The one without is probably the staging computer. And if you use usernames on your CTC computer, then all the usernames will show up in the tables. That's the only way and now you've done that. If you don't save anything, then particularly in that respect, from JMRI, if you don't save the panels, then the next time you fire things up, and if you don't load them, then JMRI it's going to do the same thing. It's always going to go out and it's going to ask the LocalNet who's there.
Yeah, so the problem's LocalNet, not the profile name.
Okay, so would firing up the panel before we turn on the layout, would that help?
Doesn't make any difference. Whenever JMRI comes up, the first thing it does is it blasts out a group ID or whatever it's called message. And then all the devices on the LocalNet say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
Yeah, if you have LocalNet monitor open, you'll see that happen. All right. Anything
the only,
else?
thing I've done in a case like that is have two different LocalNets.
Yeah.
I do have one for my staging and another one for the layout itself.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Now, the one nobody's asking is, when's this stuff actually going to be posted? And I'm going to say very soon now. It's not up yet because, like I say, there's a couple of bugs I want to definitely check out. And Seth, for your case with the lamps and everything, this is weird because just before I got up here, I got onto the call. I loaded up my little test panel that had buttons on it, worked just perfectly, but this guy doesn't. So I got to find out what the difference is between them.
All right. Something else that was touched on at the very beginning, indirectly, if you're planning ahead for going to the new CATs, you're going to use it under the new JMRI and all that stuff, you do have to install Java 11. It's a requirement for the new JMRI. So you may want to see if you have any issues with doing that elsewhere.
Can I ask one more question here quick about the new JMRI 5?
Sure.
We shouldn't really download that until we have your update here, right?
No. No, this'll, I've done, until just recently, I did all my testing under, JMRI 426, I think it was. So this will all work under JMRI 426.
All right. Is that it then? Good turnout tonight. Thank you all for joining. Rodney, thank you for your efforts and for having this session with us. And like I said, I'll get the video and the previous videos out here in the next couple of weeks. So thank you.
Mhm.
This is great. Thank you all.
Have a good day.